Hello and welcome back to PNL Podcast. That's Paranormal NL Podcast for short, located in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. I'm your host and founder, Jen Noseworthy. Thank you for tuning in to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, UPRNTalkRadio.com at 107.7 FM in Ireland and 105.3 FM on that Gulf. Watch and listen to PNL Podcast every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern with a YouTube live chat watch party with me, your host Jen, and a few BOG team members. Now for tonight's UFOs in the Bible episode on UPRN segment number 87, I've got a special guest waiting backstage all the way from North Carolina and a co-host also waiting backstage from North Carolina. Now it's time to grab your favorite cool summer beverage, maybe grab a few UFO munchies and get ready for the show tonight. Paranormal NL Podcast is sponsored by the BOG team. It's a boots-on-ground BOG team doing historical paranormal investigations in Newfoundland, Canada. Now, if you find yourself coming back to the show and you like the content, smash that subscribe button. Gratitude, folks. It all helps. Grab your PNL Podcast and BOG team merch at TeePublic on our link tree, Paranormal NL Podcast. All BOG team music heard in the intro and the exit is available for download and streaming use on all social media and streaming music platforms. Now, PNL Podcast believes in supporting international paranormal networking and highlighting global paranormal people, places, and things. Now, I'd like to give a shout out to who introduced me to tonight's guest, and that would be Mr. Mark Eddy from Third Eye Live. Now, Mark Eddy and Sir Bryan Bowden are PNL Podcast Alumni Network members from season 2, 3, and 4. So give their numerous PNL Podcast episodes a listen. You'll enjoy all of their work. Now, tonight, I'm going to bring on stage first our co-host, Mr. Rob Shelsky. Welcome, Rob.
Hi there. I'm glad to be here again. I'm surprised you're still having me here.
Well, welcome back to PNL Podcast. Do you want to give a shout out to the folks listening and introduce yourself to them?
Oh, sure. My name's Rob Shelsky. I'm an author and a ufologist. I worked for MUFON for 3 years as an investigator field, and I have really studied, researched, and gone on expeditions to do UFO research as well as other paranormal subjects. And that's me.
Well, I'm glad to have you back on the show. Now, let's go ahead and introduce our main guest here tonight. Welcome, Reverend Michael J.Carter. We're glad to have you on UPRN. I just took your mic off mute there. Welcome. We're glad to have you.
It's good to be here. Looking forward to it today.
Yes, we're looking forward to it also. So now tell the folks, Reverend, for the people listening around the world, a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a husband. I am a father. I am a member of the professional clergy. I serve a Unitarian Universalist congregation here in Western North Carolina. I am an experiencer, and that's what led me into the work I'm doing now. My church has been gracious enough through a long struggle. There were some people who wanted to have me fired, but cooler heads prevailed. And so I serve this congregation, and I try to get the word out about religion, particularly Western religion, and the UAPs, living in a populated universe, as it were, and trying to get people to see that they don't have to give up what they believe, to acknowledge that. And I also counsel experiencers.
So you've got a lot of history under your belt. Pardon the pun, should I say, because you've been on the History Channel quite a lot with your ancient aliens.
Yes. They've been good to me. I have been working with them since 2015, so over 10 years. Boy,
wow, that's a long time. I guess we have to give a few shout outs to Giorgio, of course. You can't talk about ancient aliens without Giorgio. And I guess we should send out some prayers, Rob, to our recent David Wilcock.
Yeah, that's good man.
Yeah, prayers to him. And, I had the honor of meeting author David Childress in Texas when I lived there. Yeah, at a conference that Noe Torres put off in Edinburgh. So I really enjoy the whole ancient alien stuff. How about you, Rob?
I love it. I wrote a book about it.
The
Empire. Yeah, Megalithia. It was.
I
mean, I'm interested in talking to you, Reverend. Do you prefer Reverend Michael or Reverend Carter?
Michael's fine.
Just Michael or Reverend Michael?
I've been called worse. So Reverend Michael or Michael,
Just don't call him Collect. Hey.
Right. Oh, we're showing our age. Now, the Collect calls. Boy, that was a long time ago. Yeah,
when you called your mom when you ran out of all your money.
Boy, that's giving your age away.
So tell us about your book, Michael. You've written several books, haven't you?
Yeah, I wrote a book. My latest book is a book of sermons on topics like philosophy, race, sexuality, religion. It's called Enlightenment. I wrote the first book, Alien Scriptures, which is a takeoff on my master's thesis. Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible. It took a lot of prodding. I was very much afraid of the backlash of that. But a friend at the time, who I think it's crossed over, her name is Barbara DeBolt. And she had a small production company in Arizona, Blue Light Productions. And she kept saying, you've got to grow a pair. You've got to tell people. Those are my words, but that's what she was really saying. You've got to grow a pair, and you've got to let people know that this is happening. So many people need to know this. But that was at the time where, the time hasn't totally gone away, where, the ridicule, you could lose your job, that kind of thing. So I was very hesitant. But after much prodding and a little soul searching, I took the plunge. Then I wrote a book called God Consciousness, about extraterrestrials and consciousness and that kind of thing. I looking back, I should have put God in quotations because I do not believe in the, anthropomorphic man up in the sky. And I think I explained that. Then I wrote a book called God Consciousness, which is really a meditation manual drawing from secular sources, spiritual sources, religious sources. I didn't want to get known as just the UFO minister. And I wanted people to see that I have other interests. But that didn't work out. And then I wrote a book called Initiation, shameless plug here. It's a handbook for...
put it up on the screen. If you have your books, hold them up.
Yeah,
bring it in, sir.
It's a handbook for people who are experiencers or think they are,
right?
Or may know some people who are experiencers. So
now let's talk about the word experiencers. Like, to both of you, what does that word mean to you? Because it means different things to different people, right?
It does. Rob, you want to chime in first?
Oh, you're on mute, Rob. Let me unmute him.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Oops.
I'm live.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. For me, experiences in the UFO sense are any interaction that people have with seeing UFOs, being abducted by UFOs, or having any kind of interaction with UFOs or their occupants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about you, sir?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I was thinking of, there used to be a show on, what was it called? It was about extraterrestrials. It was a comedy. It was, anyway, and within the show, and it'll come to me hopefully before the hour's up. It was really a good show, and they took it off after 2 seasons. But they had a support group for experiencers, and this question came up because back in the 50s and what have you, we were called contactees. Right. And so this character on the show said, "We prefer experiencers. It gives us more agency."
Okay.
but I that always stuck with me. I agree with what Rob was saying, and in some ways it does give you more agency. But I don't know. I've been for many, many, many years. I still have some post-traumatic from, even though I would not have traded the experiences. But I still, I guess you get a little pro, you get a little con. But it definitely changed my life, and I would say for the better.
Would you like to share anything about your experiences?
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Okay, I'll give you truncated versions because they've gone through the years. Under hypnosis with the late Bud Hopkins, more had come up when I was a kid, even though I suspected, but I didn't have the nomenclature, the language for it. On December 28th, 1989, I had come back from seeing the pyramids in Chichen Itza and Tulum.
Okay.
I went with my girlfriend at the time. We were in Cancun, and on a day we didn't want to go to the beach. We decided to do something else besides just be lazy at the beach, which was fun. And what had happened, and I want to preface this, that I was not a Star Trek person. I was raised in the Baptist tradition, and I had swallowed all of that hook, line, and sinker. But by that time in my life, I was getting away from that. So that's kind of like the backdrop. And so we went to see the pyramids. They were, of course, awe-inspiring. And one has to wonder, how did the Mayans and how did they get this technology? So when we got back home at JFK, got home, and I had been invited to a gathering down in Hell's Kitchen in Times Square. So I went. My girlfriend said, "Hey, I'm done." So I went down there. Wanted to gloat. I was really kind of bronzed, and I had hair then, and it was kind of blonde. It was just beautiful. And they were freezing. And, I just wanted to say I wasn't freezing with you. So I got there, and no adult beverages. We had deviled eggs. Oh, that's my weakness.
Yum.
And, we talked. And then I went home. I know, God forgive me, I love him so much. But anyway, I got, my God. And my stomach will show you I like them. But I went home. I kissed her. Hey, I'm home safe. And I can't tell you today whether it was because I had to go to the bathroom, but I felt a presence in the room. I turned around because I sleep on my side, and this being was there. Now, this being did not have the Buddha robe on. A friend of mine is an experiencer in Nevada, and I asked her to do that, but it had on a jumpsuit like like NASCAR.
Okay.
You know, that kind of tight fitting, but it looked like Reynolds wrap or the Jiffy popcorn. Now I'm aging myself, kind of thing. And
everybody loves Jiffy Pop.
My God!
Oh wow!
It's the Twilight. We're in the Twilight Zone. So, but it was. I thought I was going to have a heart attack, and it was at the foot of my bed, very spindly. Was not gray, kind of chalk white, like this young person is, and so and just stared at me. She would not wake up. Around this individual was a lapis blue light, and around that was a bright blue light, like I was in Times Square. Now, this is the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And I finally got a hold of my senses, and I got in the fetal position and pulled the covers up over my head. And at that time, I felt like I was outside because the temperature had plummeted. And I felt like I was outside. And I finally got enough gumption to get over the fear and pull the covers off me, and no one was in the room. It was like nothing ever happened.
Now, Rob, do you hear many people say that about the temperature change?
No, actually, that's the first time I've ever heard that. I mean, I've heard it in relationship to ghosts and that sort of things.
Right, like dimensional beings, right?
I think the temperature changed because they took me outside.
Could be.
And it was freezing.
Yeah.
That's the only.
Was it winter?
Right. Oh yeah, December 28th, 1989.
Oh.
And so that's what I think. That I just went outside, and you know they can manipulate time, and so what seemed to me probably like a short period of time, I was out and back. When I pulled the covers down, no one was there. I woke my girlfriend up, and she's a very spiritual person, and she didn't say that's the sickest thing I ever heard, or what are you, some kind of a nut? And so we talked to some other friends of mine about it, an astrologer friend of mine, that kind of thing. And then what started happening is, because she worked at night for the most part, every full and new moon for twice a month, full new moon, they visited me for about 8 months to a year.
Okay.
And they would paralyze me, and they would show me pictures of things. One time I was shown, I thought it was me in a past life as a monk, which would have made sense because I've always been in love with religion and spirit since I was a kid. And they showed a future event that actually did happen, me speaking in front of a group of people. And so they kept coming. Things were happening to me. I was very closeted. I was afraid. I went to a mental health professional, got in a support group. That's how I met the late Bud Hopkins, later met John Mack. But what happened was, I'm not really bald. I shaved my hair. I used to have real long dreadlocks, and I cut them off. But what happened was my hair and nails would grow faster, physiological changes. I could get by on much, much less sleep, you know, for like a week, 2 weeks at a time, 2, 3, 4 hours a night. The most significant thing for me, my intuitive, my psychic abilities expanded. But what really got me was I felt things much more deeper. And by that, I mean, I was willing to be more vulnerable with people. Mm-hmm. It was just a love, for lack of a better word. And that's a very opaque word, overused. But I just felt vulnerable. I felt like I could take more risk emotionally, saying when I was scared, saying when I didn't know things, telling people who meant things to me, how much they meant to me at the time, rather than waiting for some special occasion or even not at all. So those were the things that I kind of grew. I got into teaching Reiki and whatever else energies that they had been gracing me with, for lack of a better word.
And that's the thing about the paranormal circle, right, Michael? You get to meet a lot of different people and open up and talk about everything, right? And not be afraid of it.
And this was over a period of time. And then a couple months after that, on 2 occasions, I met these people twice, the Reptilian, same artist.
Okay.
They get a bad rap, but this gentleman walked, and I say gentleman because when he spoke to me, his mouth didn't move. I just could hear it in my head, and it was a male voice. Huge, very huge. His head almost touched the ceiling of my apartment. He touched me. He had a tail. His eyes, looking back now, were very beautiful. But they're like a cat. The pupil went, that's horizontal, vertical, right. Yellow back. Had a face more like a crocodile. Had on what we would call a wife beater, a tank top.
Okay.
And just touched me and told me, of course, not to be afraid. Very easy to tell someone that. But again, we're talking almost like heart attack time. That's the thing that gets you, the suddenness and the high strangeness and the way some of these people look. Mm-hmm. They came twice, but no more. No great, no sexy messages. Just looked at me in my eyes very deeply, and I felt like they could see like through me.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, was this happening in your home?
Yes, all of these happened in my bedroom. The only time one did not happen in my bedroom, I was in Boston at a conference, and one of the Greys came to me and kind of nudged me into doing healing work with my hands. And
that's
when
Reiki, right?
Yes. Yeah. And when I did I was in New York. I lived there for 9/11, and I had a visitation either right before or right after, and the Greys had come to visit me then as well.
And why do you think they singled you out?
I don't know. I think that a very dear friend of mine who passed away many years ago, who was a very, very gifted psychic. As a matter of fact, I never mentioned it to him, and he told me about them. He even told me he drew what they looked like. His name was Gene Ashley, Michael Gene Ashley. He told me I had a past life. Not one life, but I had past life experience with them. Atlantis, during biblical times. And so that had been that through line. And that I was here with them doing another particular thing now on this particular planet at this particular time.
And where do you think they were from? I mean, do you think they're extraterrestrial, transdimensional, from the future?
I think they could be all of those. I think I did not have a conversation with them, but I think they could be all of those. And I think that, the human mind wants to categorize. And, what the Wordsworth say, we murder to dissect. Our minds have to wrap around. But I don't think it has to be either or. It could be all of those things. So, but it was quite
do you do
obvious
a
to
lot
me
of,
that they were extraterrestrial.
Michael, a lot of meditation? Because, when you meditate, because you do Reiki and things like that, that really opens up your mind to a lot.
It opens up everything to a lot.
Right. Yeah. Have you ever done any like moving around within your mind or remote viewing and things like that?
I do visualization,
Mm-hmm.
like visualizing certain goals. I'd like to have manifest those kinds of things.
Because there are a
Affirmations.
theory, there's a theory, I don't know if you ever heard of it, where if you do a lot of the meditation, you open up your mind, but it's almost like a lighthouse, like a beacon, like they can see this and they come towards you because they can see that, you're using your mind in that way.
Yeah, like I said, gang, all of those things could be true. Mm-hmm. I'm just telling you what probably happened to me. I definitely wasn't meditating as much then. No. They came in at a time of my life when I needed it. I was living in New York as an actor, living a very fast life, a lot of drugs, a lot of sex, a lot of booze. And I was having a grand time, but they were probably around to let me know I couldn't sustain it. And so it was a big transition from that. Then on July 4th, 2013, I was having a very bad year. My dad had died. Sounds like a country western or a blues song. I was getting a divorce and I was losing my job. And so this person came to visit me, a more Nordic looking individual. Right. Mm-hmm. I had a blood clot and I'd never had a blood clot before. So July 4th at 10 minutes to 9, 10 minutes to 10 my time. And that's a factor because after the guy left, I had a blood clot. My leg was swollen. I was taking Coumadin. And he came and he had a hoodie on, very pale, humanoid. If you were in an elevator with them, you may or may not get a vibe that this person is strange or maybe not fully human, but he was humanoid, very built. You could see his muscles underneath. He had a cowl. I always call it a hoodie, but what the monks wore back in a little rope belt, and he stuck his hand out. I was on my side, and I looked up, and he was there. And by the time I was trying to take this all in, he had stuck his right hand out, and an apple green light came out and hit me in my stomach. I looked at him, but I didn't feel anything, and he just dissolved. But when I looked down again, my leg, which was as big as LeBron James, I wished I was built like that, from the clot, had shrunk to what it is, back to normal. The time element was interesting because the first person I called was, do you know Preston Dennett?
Okay, yes, I've heard. Yeah,
he'd be a good guest. He's written several books, but he wrote a book on UFO healings, and I had read his book, the first one, and when it happened, I thought of him, and I called him, but he wasn't there. He was then living in California. Now he lives on the East Coast. This story I'm telling you, he put in his new book.
Okay.
And so again, very high strangeness. I had to tell the doctors because I had to go to the doctor because every week, 10 days, they were pricking me and
prodding you and poking you.
Yeah. And
isn't it interesting, Michael, that I chose July for your show to come out?
Yeah.
Synchronicity.
Right.
Yeah, well, I just, and I didn't tell them the truth. They would have medicated me and locked me up. And they just kept at it. Well, what happened? You were just here 10 days ago. I said, because maybe it was the medicine. Maybe it was this, maybe it was that. And they were not having it. And finally, I just said, look, gang, I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. But I'm better. It's gone. Why can't we just celebrate that?
Right, yeah, let's move along.
And that put them back a little bit. And they said, oh, no, Mr. Carter, it's not that we're glad. We just want to explain. And so that was it. And then last but not least, 2019, the summer of 2019, I was at a UFO conference in Knoxville, Tennessee, at Knoxville University. And this individual came. And the backstory with that is very quick. I met some people there. And they were lovely. They were effusive. It was wonderful. And I came back home and I met a lady there And about a week after the conference, she called me and she said, I was so impressed, and I was telling someone about you, and they want to meet you, and they also have a message for you. And I said, oh, okay. And they said, she's right here. Should I give her your phone number? I said, no, I'm not giving my phone number out. And she said, she has a message for you. So I spoke to this young lady, and interesting young lady, and she said that she was a lawyer and a psychic. Talk about left
That's
and right.
That's a strange combination, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what type of jurisprudence she practiced. I didn't think to ask, but she said, have you ever seen a praying mantis being? And I said, I cannot say that I have. I said, I have some friends in Europe who, when we talk, a couple times a month, they would tell me. Mm-hmm. And she said, yeah. She said, I feel a praying mantis around you. And I, what are you going to say to that? It's okay. And she said, no, she said, you must take me seriously. She said, I think in 3 days you will see this person. So I said, okay, thank you very much. And the first night, I was living in an apartment there because I was divorced. I said, this is Michael, you're imagining things. But I would walk around the house and I would start getting chills. Now my brother was murdered back in
oh my gosh,
and killed him back in July of '95.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And
where's July again?
And he smoked cigarettes.
That's terrible.
So when he would come to the house, I knew he was in my apartment because it smelled like smoke.
Okay.
Because he was a smoker. And I guess that was his way of letting me know. So no biggie. Mm-hmm. The next night, which is the second night, because this woman said within 3 days, kind of like an Easter thing. But the next night it was like a little more intense. And it was freaking me out a little bit. No matter where I went in the house, I kept getting chills, like my hair would stand on end. And again, I said, now, Michael, wait a minute. This is some type of psycho, what she's saying is not happening. The third night, I was trying to meditate. I was exhausted. I was a hospital chaplain, so I seeing patients. At the end of the day, I was wiped out. And I said, I tried to sit in a lotus position, and I said, I'm going to fall asleep. I said, if I'm going to fall asleep, let me fall asleep on my back. So I laid down, and I did my meditation. I walked myself down, blah blah blah, and my eyes were closed. I was not asleep. I felt my mattress go down like someone had clung on the mattress, and when I opened my eyes, this face was right here.
Okay.
Like right there. Like I was like, wow. And then they did the same thing that our blonde friend did. Didn't say anything, just kind of, once you lock in with those eyes, I couldn't stop looking into his eyes or her eyes, and then they just dissolved. And
you said you felt a cold temperature.
I'm sorry?
Did you feel cold again at that time?
No, not anymore after that. And because I remember calling this young lady and saying, tell your friend that she's a very gifted psychic and that what she told me actually just happened last night. And thank you.
Did you have any fear with that experience?
Did I have any
fear with that experience?
I have fear with all of my experiences. I still have fear from my experiences. But the lesson that I learned, or lesson I'm telling myself, is that my life has gotten so much better. My inner life has gotten so much better. So I'll take the trade-off. And I had to tell myself, what have they done? Except one time they hurt me, but I think it was by mistake, the great people. What have they done to hurt you? What has happened? You have grown exponentially, your inner life, and so it made me look at other situations in my life where I let fear get in the way.
Okay.
Well, I don't mean to be contrary, but quite often, to me, that almost sounds like Stockholm syndrome. that you're put through these traumatic experiences repeatedly, and you begin to identify with the people creating these experiences for you. And I'm not sure that I like that approach. I mean, you can't help it. I mean, when people have Stockholm syndrome, they have Stockholm syndrome. But I mean, first of all, they're appearing without your permission. They're paralyzing you. They're saying and doing things to you. And none of this is with your permission.
Well, you know, Rob, I will say this, because when I was in Bud's group and that kind of thing happened, what can I tell you? But what I will say this, I remember, I forget, there was an experiencer who said the same things you said, not about Stockholm syndrome, but was telling them that you don't have a right to do this. And they said, we do have a right.
What was the reason for that? What was the reason? What gave them that right? What gives them the right to paralyze people, abduct people, and do all this?
I will say this. For me and my research into the Mesopotamian texts and what have you, they may have been had a hand in creating us. And so if that is true with the hybridization that the book of Enoch talks about, if that is true with what we're hearing and what we see in the book of Genesis, what we're seeing chapter 6 in Genesis, what we're seeing in the Mesopotamian text, if that is true, and I have no reason to think that it may not be, then they do have a right.
So you don't feel like they were harming you, is what you're saying?
No, I don't.
Right.
And that's what's clear. I want to be clear.
Well, I mean, if you end up having fear at the time, and you're paralyzed, it's out of your control at that
That's
particular
human
time.
behavior, though, right? Fight or flight. The first thing you're going to feel, something that you don't know is...
Yes, so normally if we're in control, it's our choice. But when it's not our control and not our choice, I think it's intrinsically
You're asking me about my experience. It's my experience, not yours.
But you said that you feared afterwards. I still fear.
Yes. Yeah, I do. But I fear because just of the suddenness. I could be getting up out of the bathroom and going to the bathroom and boom. That you would fear that if a human did that.
But
you know what I mean?
It doesn't bother you that they did this without your permission.
It doesn't bother me at all. If anything, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And so because my life has been blessed and changed for the better by that.
So for you, Michael, it was a good experience in your...
Well, I would put good in parentheses. Sometimes you have to go through a lot of fear. I lived a very fearful life without them. I was raised by parents whose nervous systems were easily flooded and fear this, fear that. It's not enough this, not enough that. And that started to go away, not because they waved a wand, but they held a mirror up to me in the sense of, you fear the difference, you fear the new experience, but the end result was what? Yeah. So I don't, and I want to be respectful, Rob. I respect your questions and whatever, but it's my experience.
Yeah,
and right. So would you consider it transcendental? I mean, was it an epiphany for you, these experiences?
The epiphany for me was that coming from the African American Baptist tradition, which looks freer than it is. There's the hallelujah and there's the shouting and there's the music and all that. But at the end of that theology is very us and them. It's very say, I'm saved and you're not. So it's very divisive. I was coming out of that. And so it was a transformation. I was having problems with that anyway. I knew people who didn't believe in God. I knew people who were gay. I knew people who were trans. And I was being told that these were people who were going to burn in hell for eternity.
Okay.
Just because they didn't believe a certain way.
Right.
And so after I met these beings, I read everything I could on religion, on shamanism, on sacred scriptures and Aboriginal stuff, and some of the experiences were almost exactly what I had. And so I said to myself, if these beings visited me initially December 28th, 1989 CE, then they were probably here in 1989 BCE and beyond. And
Right.
that's where my research had taken me.
And they didn't hurt you. They just appeared.
One incident happened when they did hurt me, but I talked to a friend of mine who was a psychic because I was having a hard time and absorbing all of this. And she said, you need to talk to them. You're going to feel stupid, but they're probably in your room now while you're talking to me. And she said, just say, we got to have some boundaries and parameters here. And so the next time that they came, and I felt stupid, but I suggested what she did, what she said. Other people had told me that too, but I was too embarrassed or whatever. And the next time they came, they had to do something to me, and it was painless.
It was
painless.
What was it? What was the
no
last?
pain. It was no pain at all.
Oh, okay.
So you did experience pain one
No,
time?
I did experience pain. Yeah, they stuck a syringe in the back of my head where my neck and that part of your head meet.
Connect, yeah.
And I just started having all these really intuitive experiences, almost like I was an empath afterwards, but it hurt.
Okay.
And so I said to them, look, this is, I remember my girlfriend came in the house and she said, I didn't know what to do. You were standing in your underwear, yelling up at the ceiling. And she said, I didn't know how to take that. But the next time they had to do something, and which probably would have hurt, but it didn't at all.
So what do you say to the people, Michael, about UFOs in the Bible? Is there a takeaway message that you have for that?
I mean, I say to them that we live in a populated universe, okay? We're not the highest people on the food chain. I said, I would say that from my studies and research, and not only mine, I stand on the shoulders of people like Eric Van Donigan and Zachariah Sitchin and Dr. Barry Downing, and who's a clergy person. And you don't have to give up everything you believe, but once you get it, it does make you have to change your ideas of what you think God is or non-God is, or what is the purpose for being here. But, one would have to do that anyway at some point in their life. When people have NDEs, right? They come back with these stories, and a lot of them are transformed. And that may be really scary. Oh my God, you died on the table and blah, blah, blah. But when they come back, they talk about, look at what happened. Let me tell you what I saw. There is no such thing as death. Let me tell you. And so, you don't have to go through that. You can do tantric sex and get it from an orgasm. I know a guy who had what we could call a paranormal experience while he was jogging one morning in LA. I'm sorry, in San Francisco. And he saw a sunset and he just stared at it. He just stopped and he said for one moment, it was almost mystical that he knew what the trees were feeling. He knew what he was one with that. And so you don't have to have these experiences, but this is the experience that I had.
Well, you mentioned Zachariah Sitchin, and I've read his works and delved into him quite a bit, actually. And his opinion of them, the Anunnaki, wasn't the best. That they did create us, but they created us as slaves.
Right. But if someone steals my money from a different race, do I say the whole race is corrupt? Do I just say the being or the people in that?
Yes, but those are the ones that created us, supposedly.
There are many who have. There are many who have created us. All I can say, Rob, is this. We're not all going to agree. If Zachariah didn't have a great thing with them, Zachariah wasn't an experiencer. So we can have all of these. It doesn't have to be either or thinking. I think that's why we get in trouble. And Zachariah, as far as I know, is not an experiencer. But if in his research, if the Anunnaki were not good people, then that's his opinion. That's his research. I know some people who do some very credible research that say all of the Nordic people were not good. We associate them with beauty and they're blonde and blue-eyed. And some of them may have worked with the Nazis in some of their experiments. It can be room for all of that. It can
Or
be
none of
room-
that. Or none of that. I mean, we can all we are supposedly given free will, and we are allowed to make our own boundaries.
And so I'm making mine.
Exactly, and that's great. And I don't actually, I envy you that you had that experiences and that they came out so well for you. But I know a lot of people that are personally interviewed where the experiences were not good.
I do
and that's
too.
why I have trouble taking it
do.
carte blanche. You know, I understand it and I can agree with it. But for me, there's limits to what I can agree to.
So, Rob, the majority of people who you interviewed who are experiencers, they had bad experiences? More bad than good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you consider that they were abducted against their will, that they were taken to a place where they didn't want to go, and that they experienced a great deal of what would be called torture, and then put back, and even though their mind was erased from that fact, and Bud Hopkins was really good at this self-hypnosis thing, or not self-hypnosis, but hypnosis. And so for me, and this is based on my experiences.
Yeah, so it's valid. It's valid.
So, well, they may be valid, they may not be, or they may only be valid for me. I don't know.
But there's a lot of experiencers out there who I guess had a good experience from it, you know?
Let me give an example. I know we're getting close to time because I have a book over here written by certain scholars and what have you. I'm in that book where, there's data and graphs and all that where most of the people said I had a good experience. But and then what is good and bad? They felt like it changed their life for the better, less materialistic, less caught up in the rat race, less caught up in narrow ways of thinking. I find that valid. When I counsel people, I listen to their story. I don't say it sounds like you got some type of syndrome going on. I don't say that. I don't analyze it. And that's part of the healing, that you're not trying to analyze me. You're listening non-judgmentally to my story.
Well, I don't think you necessarily have Stockholm syndrome.
But you're not letting.
You're not
I love this picture of you, Michael. The AI pictures that you have there.
Yeah, my wife did those. And so what I'm trying to get at is that there are many, many people who will not come forward, professional people, because they're going to be analyzed.
Right.
They're going to be. And so it's just.
We have to agree to disagree, and everybody has their own experience.
No question, but you also have to see, to me, not to be so quick to judge is a spiritual discipline. Okay. And so it's like my friends who fought in Vietnam. I'm kind of like an amateurish Vietnam scholar. But I've never had a shot fired at me in anger. So no matter how much I researched, it didn't happen to me. So there's only so far as I can go. And I'm saying with experiencers, and John Mack and others talk about this, if you hadn't had the experience, then you really don't know. And so the least we could do is just to listen.
I like to listen about how people have had their experiences. And, I talked earlier about the meditation, and that seems to be a popular theme where the more open-minded you are, the more experiences people have.
I don't know that there's data to support that, because there's data that could support that, just the opposite. All I'm doing is telling you my story, not asking you to believe it, not asking you to judge it, but even though people judge, and I'm telling you where my research has led me. I know we didn't get into biblical narratives as such, and that's all you can do.
Yeah.
What I have not done, what I've stopped doing, but I never really did, is I don't convince. I'm not here to, but this, and what about that? I'm too old for that. And it doesn't really, you hear my story and then you walk away with what you walk away with. And That's life. You know what I mean? What I will say, though, is that more than one thing can be true. I have had people who have had sperm and ovum taken. I have had people who have been traumatized by some of these beings. But there's so many of them, and there's so many. Some of them are like there's several species of grays, for instance. So when someone says the Anunnaki did this, okay, but there are other groups in the Anunnaki, right? Mm-hmm. So does that mean the whole race? Does that mean that? Or does that mean if we look at this time, these beings came to see you and they did this? Does that mean if a black person steals your pocketbook, does that mean that the whole black race is thieves? Or just it mean that in this slice of life, this is what happened to you? So right. We do that we're quick to judge, and we're quick to, we gotta, because we're mental, we gotta compartmentalize. Our minds want to make sense. That's what gets in the way. You gotta free yourself of all that because of the high strangeness, because of what's happening. We're trying to solve 40th century challenges with 21st century science.
Yeah. Really got to open up our minds, don't we?
You got to open up. You got to change your consciousness. And so that's basically my message as a person who's in, I'm a clergy person. And so that this is more about consciousness. There used to be a time when I was coming up when people used to say, you know what? I'll believe it when I see it. But now that quantum has come along, and it's not that. If you know what, if you believe it, you'll see it. So our paradigms
you've done a lot of work with anti-racism training, and you were even recognized by one of our presidents for that.
Yeah, by Clinton.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
You know, it's one of those things, and like I said, for me, because two things can be true. I look at it as a positive experience. My fear is just of the suddenness of it. But from these particular beings, I have nothing to fear from them. And my life has changed for the better, inner and outer. So for someone else, they may say, Michael, like I said, they took my sperm and ovum. They did all these things to me. You must be crazy if you think that something good could come out of that. And I just say, okay. I hear that, but it's just, they're both valid.
Thank you for sharing everything that you shared today. I really appreciate it. Do you have your 3 books that you can hold up and share and tell everybody where to find them?
All but one. You can get all of them on Amazon, or you can go to my website, michaelJSCarter.com. There is Initiation, which is a handbook for experiencers. There's God Consciousness, which is a 30-day
hold that one up a little bit
meditation journey.
Yeah, okay, there it is.
There's A New World, If You Can Take It. God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness. Mm-hmm. There is the first book, Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible. There is my book of sermons called Enlightenment in hardcover. And one of the books I have is not here. It's a book on healing and metaphysics, and it's called Spiritual Healing.
Okay.
And so you can get those all on Amazon, or if you go to my website, you can go there and set up Reiki, distance Reiki or Reiki sessions if you like, or counseling sessions.
Nice. And I'll have your website there on the ticker so people can get your website from there.
What else? One last thing. The latest episode of Ancient Aliens that I did will air on June 18th. It's called The War of the Gods. It's talking about extraterrestrials fighting each other. Of course, humanity caught in the middle. Sitchin talked about that a lot in his book, The Wars of Gods and Men. And
so do the Vedic texts. The Indian Vedic texts talk about that quite a bit as well, too.
Yes, they do. In the Mahabharata, yeah.
That's going to be a good episode. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it's the 18th. But keep checking the listings because things can change.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you both for having me.
Reverend Michael, I
really
it was fun.
Thank you.
It.
Fun chat.
We'll be back on the show again tonight. For listening to everybody. So we're going to leave with a little bit of bog team music here tonight. I think I'll put on some female dance techno to leave us tonight. There we go. So everybody follow Rob and follow Michael. You can find them, all their books on Amazon and a lot of different places. Check out their websites on the scroller above. And thanks for listening tonight, everybody.